Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Wednesday evening to you all. Hope you guys are doing okay out there. I know a lot of people are being impacted in areas of central and southern Florida, so I hope you guys are managing well down there. You're doing okay. I haven't heard of any type of fatalities or anything like that, but it's still early. The storm is still raging. It is still a major hurricane. It's weakening now due to land interaction, but we're going to give you the latest and greatest information on that. I'm praying for you guys. You guys have been in my prayers over the last several days down there in Florida. But there is still a lot to talk about as we're nowhere close to being done with Hurricane Ian. It is weakening due to land interaction right now, but there is pretty much, I would say, an above 90% chances that this is going to likely make another landfall, and most likely I'm leaning towards South Carolina rather than Georgia right now. So we're going to give you the latest and greatest information. We're going to talk about impacts in this video. We're going to talk about what Ian looks like as of right now, 6:38 p.m. Eastern Time. And we're going to talk about what it could look like. We're going to give you the latest and greatest National Hurricane Center forecast, talk about wind impacts, potential rainfall. We're going to talk about Georgia, South Carolina, a little bit of North Carolina. And we're going to talk about what this second landfall potentially means. And we're not even close to done with the rainfall. Some catastrophic rainfall totals can fall overnight in portions of Florida. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. I really appreciate the support on all my social media platforms, on YouTube, obviously. I think I've picked up close to 1,000 followers on Twitter. So, I'm telling you guys, hit me up there, especially if you're in Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina. Active weather's coming, okay? So definitely hit me up on Twitter. There's a lot of other great people too. And obviously stay tuned to the actual professionals from the National Hurricane Center and your local news sources. So like the video if you like it. If you guys got anything that I can pray over, please put in the comments below. It gives me an opportunity to pray over it. Gives others an opportunity to do so too. And we're certainly all praying together for Florida. And as you can tell, this is Hurricane Ian right now. It's obviously lost its inner structure. The eye wall has totally compromised, and now you do not have that clear circulation like we did earlier. It's kind of collapsed, but this was expected. Totally expected. You pretty much have completely lost the southern eye wall just about now. And you actually look at the radar right now, not the southern necessarily, but more so the southeastern eye wall, as basically dry air is wrapping into this now. You've been dry slotted all day for a lot of Florida. This was expected. But this eye wall right into here is still raging right here in this area of Florida. Southeast of Tampa Bay. You guys got lucky in Tampa. You guys did. I'm really happy y'all did, but there's other people who are still getting slammed right now. Even though this is a weakening system, the actual center of the storm is right here. This is a weakening system. This eye wall right here is the most intense, and this right here is intense also. In fact, it seems like from everything I'm hearing, the second half of the storm, based off all the storm chasing footage and everything, was certainly worse than the front half. But we'll take a closer, a more broader look at what's going on here. And here's the system. It's forecast to go like this, right over Florida, or more, maybe more so go this way, either way, and then get out over the waters, and then likely make some kind of landfall into South Carolina up here. Moving a little slow right here, but somewhere into South Carolina, probably right into this area. Maybe a little bit further south. So this is not developing. We've been talking about the possibility of this the last 2 days, but I mean, look at this. This is watches and warnings. This color of red right here, the really bright color in red that's almost a hot pink color, that's hurricane warnings. The darker colors of red right here are tropical storm warnings. This stretches all the way up through Wilmington, guys, and then every coastal county. Even a couple counties inland in South Carolina and certainly in Georgia have tropical storm warnings. But look at this. This just dropped a couple hours ago. Tropical storm watches in inland counties, far inland counties in Georgia and certainly South Carolina. For example, I'm in Lexington County, and I border right beside Richland County, right here, right smack in the middle of South Carolina. Currently, I'm under a tropical storm watch. So this is a real deal, guys. You typically don't see this. I mean, this happens every few years, even in inland areas of South Carolina. But listen, I would not be surprised if this gets upgraded to a warning sometime tomorrow, because this tropical storm is forecast to go right inland. And it's just going to bull right. It's not going to be one of those scrapes or coming in from the Gulf like we normally see. This is going to come over the peninsula of Florida, then go right into South Carolina. But some models have been trending a little further north. We're going to talk about that. Latest update for the National Hurricane Center. And I do apologize, this morning, it seems like I dropped the video, and as soon as I dropped the video, it upgraded to a 155 mile per hour storm. But it's a 140 mile per hour storm right now. And by the time most of you watch this, it'll weaken substantially. This is going to weaken a lot. It's normal. This is land interaction. I look back on Hurricane Michael. I think it made landfall as a 160 mile per hour storm in the panhandle of Florida. And I was amazed at how fast it weakened. I was thinking, it was back when I knew a little bit less about weather in general. I just knew this thing was going to still be a hurricane by the time it got into South Carolina. Nope, it was still all the way down to a weak tropical storm. These weaken quickly once they get over land, but it could strengthen. Here it is. We're getting into 2 p.m. Thursday tomorrow. Still a tropical storm. Gets off the coast of the southeast and gets out over water for a while. This has continued to shift east. Now forecast to still be a tropical storm in the middle of South Carolina overnight Friday into Saturday morning, guys. It's going to be an active Friday night. And, it's wild. Today here in South Carolina, it was a phenomenal late September day. I mean, it was, I do not remember a day where it felt so good outside in late September. It almost felt like an early November type day. It was kind of cloudy, had a hazy look to the sky with those high clouds from Hurricane Ian. But here we go. Forecast to drop substantially. You see this? 140 mile per hour storm now. Forecast to just be an 85 mile per hour hurricane by 2 a.m. tonight. I'm telling you, these things weaken quickly over land. Orlando, guys, I'm telling you, if you're in Orlando, you guys need to pay attention tonight. This is going to happen tonight. This eye wall right here, what's left over of this wall, of this center circulation, is going to go right over Orlando, right over you guys. And stay tuned if you're watching, if you're from South Carolina. I got you an update coming up. I just want to work from near future to further in the future. And we can't forget about Florida just because it's made impact. This is not done with Florida, guys, at all. But here you go. Forecast to drop to a tropical storm status by sometime tomorrow. But I'm telling you, Orlando tonight, in and around Orlando, you guys are going to get hit hard by basically what's left over of this inner core from the system. Then it gets back over land. And you see from 2 a.m. Friday to 2 p.m. Friday. You see this? It doesn't strengthen the storm to a 65 mile per hour, stay to a 70 mile per hour storm. It stays the same. But listen, I would not be surprised in the coming updates if the next couple cones strengthens this over this area of water right here, especially if it trends any further east. It starts to tap into that Gulf Stream, an area of very warm water off the coast of the southeast. But check it out. You got hurricane watches up for the coastal areas of South Carolina and Georgia. Here's Charleston right here. Forecast now to make landfall somewhere between Savannah and Charleston. But I mean, as a pretty strong tropical storm. But look at this, right over Columbia. It's forecast to be a 45 mile per hour tropical storm still in the middle of the night, Friday night. Okay, so, and then this is obviously going to weaken into a depression as it moves to the Piedmont of South Carolina and North Carolina. I mean, you got tropical storm watches as far northeast as, almost the southern flank of the Outer Banks, guys. So this is coming. I mean, you see the cloud cover. It seems like we've had this gradient of cloud cover that's just been kind of slowly drifting west over the last 48 hours. It's pretty much taken over, and you're going to notice a stout difference across the Carolinas tomorrow as really the atmosphere begins to change. It'll still be a nice fall-like day, but you'll notice tomorrow night around this time, you'll notice things are starting to change in the atmosphere. The winds pick up. It's already breezy out there right now in the Carolinas. But here we go, the latest and greatest model information that we're going to talk about impact. So what is the GFS showing? Literally, this just came out. All right, it's going to cross over Florida. GFS has this getting off the coast of eastern Florida sometime tomorrow afternoon and evening. And look at this. It almost jolts east briefly, stalls very slowly, and then all of a sudden it gets picked up by the upper wind pattern and surges north. And then from here to here, it goes from a 989 millibar low pressure storm in the middle of the night tomorrow night into Friday morning to a 987 millibar low pressure storm. That symbolizes, when that number drops, it tells us that the storm is deepening, which tells us that it's strengthening a little bit. Maybe not substantially, but it is. And this has been the trend. First off, the trend was, is it going to get back off the coast of the southeast? We pretty much got that trend in place where it's happening now, unfortunately. Now, the next thing was watching it if it was going to strengthen. And certainly, I mean, look at this. You drop 5 millibars from Friday morning to early Friday afternoon to a 982 millibar low pressure storm. And this is bringing ample amount of rain. I mean, this is a huge moisture surge. You can't really see it on radar, but there is a ton of moisture way out here. You can't see it, but there's a lot of moisture out here, most likely, that's going to begin to surge very slowly and develop, more so develop and then surge into the southeast. So even when this storm was supposed to forecast and make landfall over here, it was still going to throw a lot of rain. But now we're going to get full on out tropical storm force conditions, not just along the coastal areas of Georgia and the Carolinas, especially South Carolina, but inland also. And this makes landfall as a sub 990 millibar low pressure per the GFS. That's a tropical storm. And the kind of whispers out there, and that's why there's a hurricane watch on the South Carolina coastline, is this going to tap back into hurricane force strength? That is the question now that everybody's asking. The first question was, is this going to get off the coast of the southeast? Second, is it actually going to strengthen off the coast of the southeast? Third, is it actually going to make it back to a hurricane? And it's beginning to become a real possibility. So this makes landfall sometime Friday p.m. Then it's going to be a rocking night in the entire state of South Carolina and getting into the Piedmont, North Carolina, overnight Friday into Saturday morning as the low pressure surges right over central South Carolina. I can tell you the GFS almost follows directly the National Hurricane Center path. Here we go. The latest Euro, same deal. The Euro is even stronger. Gets off the coast of eastern Florida tomorrow afternoon. It's a 985, let me slow down, 985 millibar low pressure storm. And then as you get into the overnight hours of tomorrow night into Friday morning, look how this number steadily begins to drop. 982 now, 980, gets all the way to a 970 millibar low pressure storm. That is a hurricane, no doubt about it. Euro is saying this is going to be another hurricane. It's going to redevelop into Hurricane Ian after weakening to Tropical Storm Ian. This makes landfall as around a 980 millibar low pressure. A little bit further, it looks like southwest than the GFS. So it's a little bit closer to Savannah, bringing a ton of moisture in the Friday afternoon into the Midlands of South Carolina, even a lot of moisture into far eastern Georgia, into North Carolina. And a huge, I know I haven't mentioned Virginia, but a lot of moisture into Virginia. This is a huge surge of moisture. And I'm telling you, Virginia hasn't been talked about a lot, but Virginia could see a lot of rain. I'd argue that maybe Virginia is a sneaky area that gets more rain than anybody when you're talking about Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Virginia all put together. Watch southeastern areas of Virginia, I'm telling you. But European has the low pressure going right through the western Midlands of South Carolina, then gets into the Piedmont as we get into Saturday afternoon. So a lot of people have been asking me about the Clemson NC State game, because game day is going to be there. It's a big game. There's a chance it might be cleared out by the time that game happens. There is, but things are going to still be roughed around. It's going to be drying out. But I want to show you the HRRR model. The HRRR model is a high resolution model. It's a short range model. It's not a hurricane model, just a short range model. We look at it a lot during severe weather season and winter weather. Not so much tropics. But here you go. Gets this off the coast. Look at this huge moisture plume right here. Gets this off the coast very quickly, sometime tomorrow morning. And then we keep this going. Watch this number, how it tries to drop. Look how far east it gets it off the coast of the southeast. It doesn't really strengthen it much. It kind of maintains it, maybe strengthens it a little bit. But what's very interesting here, the HRRR model makes landfall almost right on top of the Grand Strand, Myrtle Beach, around late Friday morning. And is substantially just more north of a landfall in general. This would bring much higher impacts to eastern South Carolina and North Carolina in general, but still bring a lot of rain to South Carolina. We got to watch, because the NAM is kind of the same way. The NAM wants to bring more of a scenario, and trust me, the NAM is not a great model to look at, guys, when it comes to the tropics. But the NAM wants to show a more northerly landfall. We have to see how these global models, if they continue to trend a little bit further north. But I want to show you guys, before we get into impacts, dry air wrapping into the system, amplifying the weakening of the system due to land interaction also. But here you go. You see how this dry air gets to the southern flank of the storm? I'd argue that by the time we're looking at this, probably tomorrow afternoon and evening, there's just going to be no moisture on the south side. I mean, you already look at this, and there hardly is. Let's see if we can zoom in here without this taking 3 years. There's hardly no moisture already on the south to southeast part of the storm because of dry air. So I think that same structure is going to maintain. But that's not good news because this storm is moving south to north. So that means this is going to bring in an ample amount of moisture into South Carolina, portions of far eastern Georgia, and North Carolina, and then eventually move right into South Carolina. Tropical storm conditions possible. So rainfall, let's talk about Florida. This accounts for what's falling now and what's a little bit of what's already fell. So look at this. I'm telling you, if you're in Orlando, to just south of Jacksonville, to just south down along the coastal lines of this area, basically of northeast Florida, you guys could get a lot of freshwater flooding tonight. I can't stress that enough. It's going to happen probably more so into the wee hours of the morning, but y'all could get over a foot of rain just tonight. And it's all because this area, I hope this works out for me. Like I said, the rest of this area of heavy rain is going to move this way, and it's going to slow down and slam, I think, Daytona Beach to Orlando, the Palm Coast, St. Augustine. It's going to hit this area hard, I really think, with a lot of rain tonight as this continues to surge north. So that's something that's kind of been undershadowed, not talked about a lot, but I want to mention that. Please be aware if you're in this area of northeast to eastern areas of the peninsula of Florida tonight. Rainfall for Savannah. Let's talk about rainfall for eastern Georgia. This is a national blend of all models. I love looking at this. So let's just label a couple cities. Atlanta, maybe an inch and a half of rain. Augusta, 3 to 5 inches of rain possible. Savannah, it's a wild card area. The entire coastal line. Macon, let's mention that. 2 to 4 inches of rain is possible, I think, based off this model. Savannah, maybe 4 to as much as 8 inches of rain, I think is possible. Columbia, 4 to 6 inches of rain, certainly possible. And it's a big wild card, depending on how this moves in, but basically the entire coastal line of South Carolina, anywhere from 5 to as much as 10 inches of rain, I think is certainly possible. But look at this. Eastern North Carolina, southeast Virginia, more rainfall than down here. And you're thinking, how is that? The center of the storm moves this way. That's because there is so much moisture, like I said, on the northern to northeast part of this storm that gets pushed in well away from the center of this storm. That's very important, guys, to remember. But I think a lot of rain can fall in this area right here. But I think the strongest winds are going to be in South Carolina. I really think they are, unless this continues to trend north, which it could. It really could, guys. So a lot of rain expected. And I think there could be an amplified area of rain in the foothills of North Carolina due to the elevation, which amplifies the rain. It really does. And basically, there's going to be an area right here where basically the moist air meets the cold air. And that basically helps to squeeze out as much moisture as possible, generally speaking. So I think there's going to be a big flooding risk in the southern Appalachian Mountains here. I really do. As far as winds, what can we expect? Well, tonight, let's go on and dip down to Florida first. Tonight in Florida, I think, like I said, if you're in Orlando, there's going to be a period of maybe 50 to 60, 70 mile per hour wind gusts to move over you here in a couple hours. And then if you're in Jacksonville, you're going to get a stiff, probably easterly flow, maybe a northeast flow that's going to probably bring you guys some big time storm surge. And I should have had that pulled up. I'll pull it up here in a second. You guys could get some storm surge. Some of these coastal rivers can really flood. And that mixed in with heavy rain falling. And I'm not just talking about Jacksonville too. I'm talking about the coastal barrier islands of Georgia too. Gusty winds moving in. You guys could get 50 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts easy. I mean, look, this is Jacksonville Point South, St. Augustine. 60, 70 mile per hour wind gusts are possible, guys. And then here's the actual center. Look at this. This is when it begins to potentially strengthen again. The winds begin to amplify again. And look at these strong winds. These winds are going to be forcing a lot of rain into these coastal rivers. I'm telling you guys, storm surge in these areas is going to overachieve, I think. And it's not really calling it overachieve. They're forecasting as much as 4 to 6 feet of storm surge in this area. And I think Charleston, let's go on and look a little bit further north. Let's see if I can pull it up here on the fly. Please stay tuned if you're in South Carolina, because this is This is very important right here. Here we go. We move up here and look at South Carolina and Georgia and North Carolina. Look at these strong winds. This is getting into Friday morning. Hilton Head, Edisto, Charleston, all the way up to Myrtle Beach. You're getting wind gusts starting to push 50, 60 miles per hour. And then the actual center moves over. And look at this, all the way up to Columbia. Potential wind gusts, not sustained wind gusts from Orangeburg, Allendale, Columbia, maybe 40 to as much as 60 mile per hour wind gusts are certainly possible, guys. And then the whatever structure, if this is a hurricane, the wall of whatever tries to re-intensify or form at the center of the storm moves inland. And I think somewhere could get hurricane force winds as this moves inland. And look at these stronger winds reaching all the way up to Charlotte, 45, 50 mile per hour wind gusts. Fayetteville, same kind of deal. Even stronger winds all the way up to Raleigh. Strong winds all the way up to Greenville, Spartanburg, Augusta. And this moves in. The center of the storm creates breezy conditions all the way up into the Piedmont of the Carolinas. And then this moves on through. So this, if you're wondering about the time frame, I mean, I'm bad about not mentioning the time frame. The winds will start to pick up as early as back it up. You'll notice it getting very, very breezy tomorrow afternoon. If you're going to the Gamecock South Carolina State game that got rescheduled from Saturday, you'll notice it's going to be breezy. So let's not kick field goals. I'm a Gamecock fan. But you'll notice Friday morning, that's when the tropical storm conditions start to ooze in. And then as we get into Friday afternoon and you're heading home, hopefully most of you just stay home tomorrow. Hopefully some businesses get canceled. Full on out brief tropical storm force conditions are certainly possible throughout the entire state of South Carolina. And I know I keep mentioning South Carolina, but North Carolina too, and then areas of far eastern Georgia. So this is a big deal, guys, and this is ultimately why they're canceling school. I think they're going to cancel it for most of South Carolina. They've already canceled it for most of South Carolina for Friday, but I think it's a really good call. But that's all I got, guys. That's the best information I got. Let's see if there's any new information out, because a lot of times it likes to drop right when I'm done. But I want to show you guys. Let's look at storm surge really quick for you folks in areas of Florida. Here it is. Peak storm surge. I mean, look, 4 to 6 inches of storm surge. 4 to 6 feet of storm surge from just south of Jacksonville to just north of Jacksonville. 3 to 5 feet from Savannah to Charleston, Hilton Head, Edisto, all these areas. And then you're even predicting storm surge all the way up to the southern flank of the Outer Banks. Storm surge predicted in Myrtle Beach, guys. So I'm telling you, you folks in Charleston know this the best. It floods very easily in Charleston. So do not let your guard down with this. And I know you guys aren't. I mean, it floods when there's a full moon in Charleston. It doesn't have to be dropping. There's not even a cloud in the sky. And if there's a full moon in Charleston, it's going to flood. The drains start flooding. I mean, it's wild. So, it's just a matter of time for Charleston gets another Hugo, and I don't know how they're going to be prepared for it because they just flood with a summer thunderstorm. But anyways, stay safe. This is coming. We'll see if there's a more north trend. If it's so, then maybe more North Carolina, Myrtle Beach up to Wilmington starts to be mostly impacted, and then it starts to shift away from Savannah, for example. But we have to see how this goes, guys. But that's all I got. I hope I got detail for you guys enough. Stay safe out there. Hopefully it answered some questions for you all. And God bless.